I'm Jonathan Ashong-Lamptey. This is the Resource Group's podcast. Here's what's coming up on today's show. I think we've been guilty of oversharing. And when I say that, I mean that we've been sharing too much information. There's a lot of people in this space who are either unwilling or unable to do what we do here. And I suppose to some extent, I'm constantly trying to show that we're not one of them. Because this is the only podcast in the world concerned exclusively with employee resource groups. Sharing is at the heart of employee resource groups. It's not all about having a shared social identity, but it is about sharing what matters to you. I'm Jonathan Ashong-Lamptey, and welcome to the latest episode of the Resource Groups podcast, where it's my job to explore, discuss, and deconstruct ways to help the people within your workplace reach their potential and drive performance through inclusive practices. In simple terms, this means I'll be drawing from a variety of disciplines, trying to connect the dots in terms of best practices, habits, and other important pieces of information that you can apply in your organization. Each and every week, we share a lot of information that we think could be useful to you. But I've come to the conclusion that we've been sharing too much information. In today's show, I discuss several things, including oversharing, how we've been guilty of this, why sharing is at the heart of your employee resource group, how we're going to share with you in the future, and much, much more. If you're finding this for the first time, make sure you check out the show notes to get details of all the reports and all the resources that are discussed in the show by going to resourcegroups.com/podcasts. That's resourcegroups.com/podcasts. That's also where you can get in contact to make any suggestions for the show, recommendations for future episodes, or just to learn more about what we're doing. We're also going to be continuing the conversation in our LinkedIn group called the Resource Groups Community. There you can get a slide deck that summarizes everything that we talk about on the show. I look forward to hearing from you and hope you enjoy the show. Sharing is at the heart of everything that we do here. And in this show, I want to talk about sharing in three ways. The first is with regards to oversharing. I think we've been guilty of oversharing. And when I say that, I mean that we've been sharing too much information. Now, we've created hours and hours of audio footage, and this includes interviews with experts from all around the world, analysis of high-profile research, and we've also been challenging your thinking in everything from defining key words to turning lazy assumptions on their heads. Now, we've got hundreds and hundreds of slides that cover each and every show just to make sure that you've got enough information that you can take away and use in your organization. Now, that sounds like a lot, and do you know what? It is. I met with someone this week who said he didn't realize how much we've actually produced. Obviously, that put a big smile on my face because this is the only podcast in the world concerned exclusively with employee resource groups. And we do it because we want to make sure that you use this stuff to transform the place where you work. That said, I think we can do better. I've been listening to some of the shows and I've realized that we've been so eager to get these insights to you that we've been cramming a lot of information into each episode. And I've had to ask myself, is this useful for you as a listener? In most cases, I think yes. But there are some episodes that have so much value and so much content that I think it could have been used to make 2, even 3 shows. So I think this would have been better value to you because then it would be easy for you to remember what was covered, which means that you're more likely to do something to make a change where you work. Given that I'm talking about oversharing, this is where I get to share one of the hang-ups I have about the work that we do here. And this also explains, in some part, some of our actions. There's a lot of people in this space who are either unwilling or unable to do what we do here. And I suppose to some extent, I'm constantly trying to show that we're not one of them. I've learned so much from all the research and the experiences that I've had, and I've seen massive changes to organizations that I've worked with. And I want to scale those results as quickly as possible. Now, this podcast is one of the ways in which we do this, and we're working on others. But it's not just about sharing. Here, we show, don't tell. Instead of telling you about diversity and inclusion, we try and show you, even when it's not convenient, even when it doesn't fit into a convenient package. And we're going to continue to do this. This brings me to the second point about sharing. Sharing is at the heart of employee resource groups. Why? Because the defining characteristic of a resource group, affinity group, staff network, or whatever you call them, is sharing. Here, we define them as voluntary groups of employees that share a social identity, values, or interests. Now, the sharing is what matters, and as we discussed last week, it's not all about having a shared social identity, but it is about sharing what matters to you. The final point I want to make is that our ongoing research shows that sharing is consistently one of the main reasons that people join an employee resource group. In my thesis, I found that shared experiences were a primary motivator for people. And I'm not talking about friendships. This was very different. I mean, people wanted to be in a peer group with like-minded individuals. This means that this is something you should be thinking about all of the time when crafting your agendas and your activities. Ignoring this is likely to be counterproductive. So let's wrap this up. What are the key messages here? 1. We share a lot here on this podcast, and we're going to continue to do so in a way that's easier for you to consume. 2. Sharing is the defining characteristic of each and every resource group. And 3. A shared experience is one of the main reasons that people join an employee resource group. So what do you think? How do you like to share information? What are the main reasons that people have joined your employee resource group? Get in touch or leave a message. We would love to hear from you in the resource groups community. That's also where you can access a slide deck that summarizes everything that we talk about on the show. To learn more about our work and the resources discussed in the show, check out the show notes by going to resourcegroups.com/podcasts. That's resourcegroups.com/podcasts. If you're finding this for the first time, hit subscribe to make sure you get all the latest updates and access to other episodes of the show. You can also sign up to our newsletter to get on the insider list to stay ahead of everything that we do. We're active on social media. Follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @resourcegroups. My personal handle is @JALamptey, @JALAMPTEY. If you've learned something from today's show, please share it with one other person that you think may benefit. If you really like the show, please leave us a 5-star review. With your support, we can really take this show to the next level. Thanks for listening, and I will see you in the next episode.